Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Wendy Dillard here. Today is Wednesday, January the 10th, 2018, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, your second daily dose of happy for the day. And we're off to a great start because this morning's show was really good. I mean, Wendy, it was amazing. We were talking about people who are trying to get their ex back, and it was like a really in-depth conversation. It was fantastic. So we have our work cut out for us this afternoon.
Well, and I want to tell you, believe it or not, I woke up early and listened to your whole show live today.
Oh, you did? That's cool.
I did. So I was one of your live listeners.
Excellent. I love it.
And it was a great show.
So now we've set the bar real high. So you came up with the topic for this afternoon. What do you got for this afternoon for us to talk about?
Today, I want us to talk about how do you know when you're ready to receive.
Okay. All right. Well, so, that should be good.
When I say ready to receive, I'm talking about ready to receive all the goodies and all the things that you've been desiring, that we've all been desiring, that's swirling in our vortex, like wanting to flow to us, but so often of the time we block ourselves from allowing it to show up. So that's why I want to talk about how do you know when you're ready?
And that certainly dovetails with what we were talking about this morning, because this morning part of it was just, when is the appropriate time to try to attract. But when you do have the appropriate time, you want to make sure it shows up. So this fits in really, really nicely.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. We should start off. What about
let's talk about our wins.
Yeah, let's do wins.
Tell me what's great in your life right now.
Oh, what's great in my life right now? Well, we're making good progress with reaching out to coaches, law of attraction coaches around the country and around the world. People are responding well to the offer to be participating in our book project. We're getting some really good responses. People are very interested. They're like, wow, a law of attraction book? Yeah, I'm in. Let's do it. It's like, great, I love this. I mean, the hardest part is just I have to go through a lot of picayune work just to find each one of them, because it's not like there's all one place. Well, here are all the most wonderful law of attraction coaches in the world. You have to go find them. It's a little bit tricky. But it's going very, very well. And the only thing I have to do really is just pick up the pace a little bit, because they're there and they're interested.
Wonderful.
Yeah. How about you?
Well, today I would say my win is I had a gal call me and say she was interested in law of attraction coaching.
Oh, nice.
And I was kind of still in my sleepy zone, because remember I'm on vacation, so I'm sleeping when I want to, taking many naps.
Right.
And so I heard the message on the recorder, but I wasn't ready to pick up the phone because I was still kind of in my own zone.
Sure.
And what was kind of fascinating is I'm like, oh, well, this is a good thing, but I had kind of a reaction, and I went, okay, what's that about? And all of a sudden I went, I don't know what I should tell her my price is.
Oh.
Well, that might be a silly thing, considering I've been coaching for a long time, and I have very defined prices, and I have 3 different coaching packages, and somehow it felt weird, and I didn't know why it felt weird. So I sat on that for a while, because I thought I don't want to call her until I kind of know, because if she says yes, I got to tell her what I'm going to charge her. And what came to me today was, just like I customize all of my coaching for the clients that come in, I felt I wanted to customize my pricing for her. And
okay.
That's not something that happens all that often, but that's why it must have felt weird to me. So I kind of, asked the universe, okay, what's appropriate? And so I got a dollar amount, and I got a structure. And so when I called her, we had the most delightful call.
Good.
I just love the energy that she and I shared, and if she's listening, because I gave her the information for today, I'm now saying it on the air. I truly enjoyed talking to you. And she definitely wants to work with me, and so we exchanged information. I told her that I was going to do a special pricing thing for her, and she thought that was great. And so that, to me, is a win, because I followed the guidance. Yesterday our show was all about guidance.
That's right, yeah.
And I was following the guidance today. I was following my feelings. I was asking questions. I was following what felt right to me. And then when I called her, I was like ready for her to say yes, she wants to be my client, because I had all that stuff taken care of. And she said, yes, I do want to work with you. I look forward to doing that. And so that, to me, it's just always a happy thing for me when I get to talk to someone that I feel I have a like-mindedness with, and that I could tell, and here's our topic, I can tell she's open and ready to receive
yes.
coaching.
But
She's ready. She's asking the questions, and she's ready, and I'm excited about delivering.
by the way, when I was still doing online marketing for business clients in a rather regular manner, which has it's been a while since I've actually been doing that. But every client was a different price, and
really?
yeah. I mean, I didn't have a set rate because every client's needs were different, and I knew by talking to them, how much time, how much, what kind of resources I'd have to get and so forth in order to make their goals happen. And I'd be very upfront with, this is what I think it's really going to cost. Most of the time I couldn't give them a precise figure because a lot of it has to do with what the market is available for their particular industry. And that can vary widely from industry to industry. But it was almost always a custom price. In fact, that was probably my most difficult thing, trying to figure out what the price was each time, because I couldn't just go to a menu and say, well, it's always this, because it wasn't always this.
Well, and likewise, when I was a costume designer, every person who came to me and was interested in costuming, some had a huge show they needed me to do, some just had like 3 things, and it was very customized. And I had to be really good at itemizing what is it going to cost me in materials, how long is it going to take me, and I'd have to come up with a price, because it doesn't work very well to say, oh, let's say $3,000, and then when they come to pick it up, I go, you know what, it took me longer than I thought, so it's $4,000.
Yeah, right.
People don't like that, and they're not prepared for it. So I had to get really good at preparing in advance. Even though I hadn't spent the time yet, I hadn't shopped for the materials, I had to really feel that I was right on the mark. And that was a lot of where my intuition came to play.
Yeah.
Because, I did feel good about when the customer came and picked it up, that the price that I had quoted really was appropriate, not only for them, but it made me feel good about, what I was getting in terms of my profits. So today was one of those little experiences, where, okay, I'm willing to customize because that's the way the energy is moving for me. That's the guidance that felt like the right thing to do.
By the way, you're going to be proud of me. You said you listened to this morning's show. I actually got guidance during the show and went with it.
Good for you, Walt.
I really did, yeah.
Can you tell us what specifically that was and how you did
I knew you were going to ask that, and I'm saying, do I really want to tell this? Because she's going to ask that. I can't remember which one it was, but it was one of the times when it was like the last third of the show. There were a couple of times where it happened, and in both of those cases, I was basically not going to say the thing that I said, and I got this urge to say it anyway, and went with it, and it worked really well. But can I tell you which ones they were? I can't tell you which ones they were. I don't remember.
But the fact was, you somehow sensed the nudge, and you acknowledged it to yourself, and then you acted upon it.
And it was weird the way it happened, because I was ready to say something else, and all of a sudden I found myself wanting to change it in midstream.
Mm. And remember yesterday on the show, you were asking questions about, well, how do you know when you get guidance, and how do you know if you're following something that's truly guidance or kind of like false guidance, like some stupid thought showed up. And I said, the truth is, you kind of don't know until you do it. You follow it.
Well, that was certainly true.
So what you're telling me is that you followed it, and you said it had a great result.
And I followed it not because of any conscious intent. It's just like, all of a sudden, I was just going that way. And if you had asked me immediately afterward, why did you switch gears? I would have said, I don't know. I just did.
But now here's the cool part. So if you can allow yourself to remember, and maybe you can immediately or maybe you have to think about it later, if you can allow yourself to remember what it felt like or sounded like or looked like when you got that nudge to change gears, that's the thing you want to start paying attention to, because that's how you can mark it, if you will, for the next time you get a piece of guidance. And the more you mark it and go, this is what it feels like, or this is how it shows up, and it may show up in various ways, or these are the ways it shows up, it allows you to trust that signal the next time to go ahead and try taking action on it and then see, okay, can I validate that, yes, I got a positive result?
The closest I can come to describing it uses a phrase that my wife once used to describe what it was like when she got together with a group of women friends of hers while we were in Virginia. They'd get together once a week to do meditation and some other spiritually based stuff. I can't remember exactly what. But the point is they would get into a meditative place and they just kind of, settle into it, so to speak. And what she described is when she got into state or trance or whatever you want to call it, it was like her mind slipped sideways. And I thought that was I always thought that was a really interesting adjective, and a metaphor to describe what the thing was. I wasn't quite sure what it meant, but I can tell you this morning when that stuff was happening, it wasn't so much my mind slipped sideways, my attention slipped sideways. It's like I was looking over here and ready to talk there, and all of a sudden I'm talking over to the left, kind of, or to the right. I mean, it wasn't directional, but all of a sudden, just in the midstream, I'm talking in a different direction. And that's the best I can tell you. It's like I slipped over to the side, and I don't know why.
So, well, and that's awesome that you were able to kind of capture that understanding or what that signal was like for you.
What I am going to do is I'm going to tell Louise.
It may never be that way for anybody else.
It may not.
But that's how it is for you. Just like yesterday when I said, when I first started playing with this in my 20s, I would see phrases go across my forehead in my mind's eye, like a ticker tape. And
I remember you said that.
That's weird.
It is weird, yeah.
I don't know if it's that way for anyone else, and that's why on yesterday's show I was really wanting to make a point, like don't lock into what Wendy's way of getting a signal is or what Walt's way is, because we're all going to get our own. It's very customized to who we are.
I do know I'm going to tell Louise about it tonight because I haven't actually told her about what happened during this morning's show, but we'll do that tonight. We always share our stuff at night. And when I tell her about it, the first question I'm going to ask her is that the way it felt when your mind slipped sideways when you were meditating with your meditation group? Because I really want to know if that's what her answer is going to be.
And it may not.
It may not. I don't know.
You liked that phrase, and so if nothing else, you took her phrase and you glommed it onto what your experience was today.
And as I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm realizing I just did it now, because when I came up with the slip sideways, it was the same thing. In order to come up with that phrase, I slipped sideways.
Well, you are having some fun with this try to figure out how to follow guidance thing, aren't you?
Yeah, the only problem is I don't have the Twilight Zone theme queued up here, so you have to kind of imagine that it's playing. But
oh, my goodness. So let's talk about how do you know when you're ready to receive. Now, granted, I came up with the topic, so I'm just going to start with asking you if that even makes sense to you or if you even know what that means.
Well, in the case of what we were talking about, I received before I was ready, so it didn't make any difference.
Well, like I'll take for instance, the gal who I was talking with this morning about, her wanting to hire me as a law of attraction coach. There's something very specific in her life that she wants to create and manifest. And based on different things that she's been doing and input from a group that she has belonged to, she was using all of that as filters to see if she's where she needs to be, but the result that she's been getting is not what she was looking for.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so, the way I look at it, in law of attraction speak, there are very specific things that are signals that let us know we're right where we need to be to receive. And so, yes, it's a little bit etheric, but it's a little bit more solid. Like, one of the things Abraham talks about, and I think this is cool, and even though it took me a long time to understand it, it was if you have 10 things in your life that you're wanting to manifest, and when you think about 9 of them, you feel really great. But if you think about one of them that you just feel a lot of doubt and resistance and negativity, and you're like, oh, God, I want it, but I don't know how it's going to happen, and I'm feeling really desperate about it, But if you stay focused on that one thing, the one that's not going well, unfortunately, because that's the broadcast system, that's the broadcast energy that you're sending out into the universe is kind of like, oh, all right, well, this person wants more of this mucky, despair, icky energy. And so it kind of colors all 10 subjects.
Oh, yeah.
So if you were in a receiving mode where you were starting to see manifestation on those other 9, unfortunately, your focus on the one, because you're focusing such negative stuff, kind of blocks everything from coming through.
And I know exactly what you mean, because yesterday, going back to reaching out to finding law of attraction coaches who want to participate in our book project that we're doing, I was experiencing something that it was kind of unexpected. And I think what it amounts to, I was playing some old tapes without realizing it, and I didn't like them very much. Virtually everybody I have reached out to who responded, most people, not most, a majority of people don't even respond. But the minority, among the people who do respond, so far I've had exactly one person turn it down. And all the rest of them have given me at least positive interest, and in most cases they said, yeah, I'm on board. Despite that fact, yesterday I found myself cringing whenever I saw an incoming email about that topic.
Really?
And I was afraid it was going to be a case where they're going to say, what are you doing, with this crazy project of yours, or why are you spamming my email, or, some crazy off-the-wall stuff that had nothing to do with what was going on, and that I was not actually experiencing in any way. But it was playing in my head like that's what it was going to be. I was getting myself all tight about it. I was getting very nervous. I didn't want to open the email. I'm thinking, WTF? What's going on here? And I knew it was the wrong place to be in. And I wanted to get out of that really fast. But wow, it was really something. So, yeah, have I ever had that happen? Yesterday. And the stuff's going good. I mean, the response is really, really good. Like you said, 9 out of 10 is just great. There isn't even a 10th one that's bad, but I made it up.
But you know what? I want to just stop in the moment and acknowledge you for having that awareness. Because
thank you. Actually, I couldn't miss it.
I was going to say, so often of the time, those things are going on, like, continually, but you don't capture it. You're not even aware. It's a transparent thought that's transparent from the perspective of it's there, it's in front of you, but you're not even aware it exists. And because when you don't know it exists, it keeps playing out, and you keep broadcasting that negative signal, which is contrary to what you're wanting to broadcast. So that's why I like to take moments to say, let's stop and acknowledge that you had awareness.
Well, thank you.
Because the fact you had awareness not only served you in that particular thing, but it tells me that you're starting to get greater awareness across the board.
And I have to say that is also largely, the awareness that I had is largely due to all of the work I've done since I started really working hard on improving my focus some 8 to 10 years ago. And over time,
good job.
well, over time, very early on, I was really aware of just how much negativity was going on in my head. Only after my wife pointed it out to me, but when she pointed it out to me and I was aware of it, it's like, oh my goodness. And then I'm reading The Secret and starting to read about the law of attraction, and I'm thinking, I'm screwed. I don't have a chance. There's so much negativity going on up there. What the heck am I going to do? So it was like one of the very, very earliest things that I started paying attention to was noticing when it was happening so I could try to do something about it. So I guess I do have a number of years of practice of just being aware of it, and that's probably why it was just so easy for me to be aware of it. But thank you. I still appreciate the acknowledgement.
Well, and so what did you do with it yesterday once you had that awareness?
I walked away for a moment because I couldn't handle the energy. I literally I left the space. I couldn't find a happy place. I couldn't find a happy thought. I couldn't find any reason to feel confident, even though I knew the reasons were there. So I just kind of walked away, took a break, took some breaths, and I got to focus on something else for a minute because this is driving me nuts. And I didn't totally get rid of it, so to speak. I didn't totally overcome that situation yesterday. It wasn't until I actually talked with Louise about it and told her I was really having trouble with it, and she basically threw back in my face what I often tell her, which is, well, what do you want to focus on instead? And
but you did what I would call the strategy called distraction.
Yeah.
Which is a totally legitimate way to get yourself out of a negative spin.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a way immediately that I could find to get into the positive space, but at least I could get away from the negative. I could just run away from it for a second.
Good for you. Good for you. So are you open to me asking you a question about it?
Yeah, sure.
So when you were recognizing that you had this kind of cringing feeling when you saw that subject showing up in your inbox, and you were in a space of feeling like, oh my God, what if there's a negative reaction to it? Did you ask yourself the question, is this even true that I'm getting negative responses?
No, that question didn't even occur to me.
Okay. Just because that's a tool, and I'm using yours as an example, but I'm throwing out to kind of our whole listening audience that when you find yourself in a space where all of a sudden you're feeling something negative and you don't like it or you're in a state of fear, you can just, one of the things you can do is ask, is this thing that I'm like so invested in, is it even true?
It's a valid question too, because if I had had the presence of mind to ask that question, I probably would have gotten past it pretty quickly. Now that I think about it, but I'm not in the habit of doing it, I guess.
The work of Byron Katie, and Byron is a female, that's kind of the foundation, I think, of her whole process, which she calls the work, in quotes. It's all about, we live in a world of illusion sometimes, and we don't stop and even ask, is it even true?
Oh, yeah. I mean, the entire world is an illusion. That, more than anything else, is what convinced me about the truth of the law of attraction. I mean, literally, if quantum physics is telling us that all the things that we think are solid really aren't, I stop and say, well, if they're not solid, then what are they? And from that point on, it's like, so every time I'm touching something solid, it's not really solid. It's very mind-bending, but from that point on, I've been really, really aware that, when I think I'm holding something, I'm not really holding something, and I still don't know what that means, but wow, that's powerful stuff.
And I think most of us have heard the acronym FEAR being false evidence appeering real.
Yeah, that's my favorite one, yeah.
And that really is kind of the same thing as saying, is it really true? Mm-hmm. Is it, because if it's false evidence appearing real, it's like we're believing the illusion that something's real, but it's not. Or we're believing the illusion that it's true when it's not. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I think one of the easiest questions I ask myself quite often when I'm feeling contradictory to something, or I'm being concerned or fearful or whatever, is I'll just say, is this fear based on anything true?
And as soon as you phrase it, you know that it isn't, because fear is never based on anything true. It's based on fear.
And then if I want to continue and go, okay, so how did I get this? Then I can take it down that road. And sometimes just saying, is this really true? I might say, no, but it sure feels that way. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes that's a great place to go, okay, that's enough for now, and now I'm going to go distract and do something else until I'm ready to come back to it and ask further questions, because my intention then is to clear it to the point that fear just doesn't exist anymore. Yeah, so that next time I'm looking in my inbox and I see that subject, all of a sudden, instead of having that feeling, that cringing feeling, I'm like, excitement, because 9 out of 10 responses are positive.
Yep. Yep.
So
it's a good point, because I think it's one of those things that's kind of like what I went through when I was learning how to recognize stuff, recognize negativity that was going on in my head. It took a while to learn it. It took a while to be willing to say, oh yeah, that was a negative thought. Okay, at least I just marked it. I may not have fixed anything, but I've recognized it. And then doing that over and over again over time, you start to get it. Well, I would think the same thing would be true here. It probably would not asking is it a valid thing? Is it a true thing? Probably won't knock me off of feeling fearful about it right away. But if I do it over and over again, then it does actually start knocking me off.
It starts to put a dent in it.
Yeah. A dent is a good way of describing it.
Yeah, it kind of makes the illusion of the fear not quite as solid in our perception.
Yep.
And to me, that's how we take perceptions and shift them. We throw darts at them until all of a sudden it loses all of its steam. You go, oh, that doesn't even have any validity anymore. But at first it has a lot of validity because it feels real.
It does. It does feel real, and I think that's part of the reason why I know where my mind was going, where it was trying to go anyway. One of my go-to things whenever I'm struggling with something is to try to find the replacement. In other words, if I'm on a thought that's a non-productive thought, it's got me going towards stuff that I know is not my preference, I want to replace it with another thought. And when I'm successful, I'm able to grab another thought that's usually one of my safe thoughts. I have like a little collection of safe thoughts that I've gone over and over and over and over, and so I'm really used to them. And if I need a safe thought, I can go grab one of those. In this case, I didn't have enough presence of mind to remember, I have to go for a safe thought. But with your question, I think I will get to the point where I start saying, oh yeah, I got to get a safe thought. Let me grab one of my safe thoughts. And then I can go over there. And now I've replaced the focus. I've replaced that bad focus with a good focus. It may not even be related, but it's a replacement. So that's what I was looking for. I was looking for the replacement. Yeah.
So back to our topic, how do we know if we're ready to receive?
Well, I wasn't yesterday.
And you know what? Just having that awareness is great. I mean, I believe all awareness is good, whether it leads us in a direction where we realize, I'm actually broadcasting something I don't want to broadcast, or the contrast where we're broadcasting something we do. All information is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think years and years ago I heard Abraham say this, and I think I only heard him say it one time, that the law of attraction does not operate based on morality.
Right.
Because morality is good, bad, right, and wrong. And law of attraction bases itself on what is. And it doesn't judge this is such a kind, good person. We will never bring anything unpleasant to them. Don't you wish it worked that way?
Well,
but it doesn't.
More precisely, it isn't so much that it focuses on what is; it's on what you're focusing on. What you're focusing on is the what is.
Yeah,
in this case.
all it knows is the broadcast signal that you are emitting.
Right.
Period. And report. And so that's how, quote, bad things happen to good people.
Yes.
It's not that the universe or God are out to get anybody. It is all contingent upon what an individual is broadcasting in terms of their energetic vibrational signal.
Which in and of itself is a big concept. I know that one took me a while too, because very early on, before I even discovered LOA, I thought there was something after me. I thought there was some evil force that was, basically sabotaging my efforts. And my wife was the one who was trying to convince me, no, it's not outside of you, it's you. And I didn't like that one at first. That took me a while. I didn't like that. I didn't like it being me, because I didn't think it was me.
And isn't that funny? Because, nobody wants to think it's them. I felt such freedom when I started to accept that I'm responsible for everything I create in my life. Because that meant that I could control, even if I didn't know how to do it yet, that I was in control of my life and I wasn't at the mercy of some outside force that arbitrarily just threw stuff at me and I had no control over.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, it's a freedom that also leads to a feeling of power. Maybe not instantly, but after a very short period of time, it leads to a feeling of power because you realize with that responsibility, you have a lot of power.
Yeah. And personally, I like it. So I went from being the ultimate control freak who tried to control everything external to myself to now I love taking what was a natural control freak characteristic and I turned it inside knowing the only thing I can control is me. and my responses to things and how I think and focus. And that's the playground that I live in now. I don't live in somebody else's playground because I can't control them. I can't control their behavior or their thoughts or their desires, nor do I want to. But I get to stay in my own playground and take care of how I think about things. And that's how I also change things into a position where I am in the state of readiness to receive.
So what happens then, if I can kind of extrapolate from what you're saying there, is when we're focused on, yes, I'm the one who's putting out the vibration. Yes, I'm the one who can control that. Yes, it's up to me what I'm focusing on, and that's what's going to control it. Yes, I can stick with what feels good to me. I can stop focusing on what doesn't feel good to me. When we stay in that space and gain both the freedom and the power that comes along with it, that's also how we end up getting to the state of acceptance, of allowing.
Okay, tell me more about that.
Well, if we are feeling the power, feeling that we are in control during that attention to us and our own focus and our own awareness of what's going on just within our focus, and staying with the focus that we want, and disciplining ourselves more and more to stick with what we prefer and distract ourselves from what we don't prefer and go back to the stuff that we do prefer, that activity gets us feeling more confident. And as we feel more confident, we start to believe. And as we start to believe, then we say, oh. And as we say, oh, we start to relax. And as we start to relax, we start to allow. So the freedom and the power actually give us the feelings that we need to, basically take the steps to get to a point where we're allowing. It's like, well, yeah, it's not even allowing. I just know it's going to happen now, so I can just relax.
That was beautifully said. Really beautifully said. And, where I believe I just felt you land when you went through that string of this causes this, which causes this, which causes this, is at the end, it feels good.
It does.
It feels good. And that is one of the ways that you can interpret that you're ready to receive. Because when you're in a state where wherever you are feels good, that's a broadcast signal that says to the universe, I'm wide open. I'm in a space of agreement. Abraham calls it alignment. But you're in agreement with all that you've ever desired. It's like whether it's your inner being or source energy, however you want to interpret or describe that entity. When you're feeling good, that's the same vibrational quality that the receiving element is in. So receiving is a vibrational state that's at a pretty high frequency, and feeling good is equal to the receiving mode.
Yes.
When you're in love and you're feeling just the overwhelming waves of love and adoration for someone or for yourself, that equals the receiving mode. Now, I know everyone uses slightly different words for certain things, but I kind of like this string of words I'm about to present that Abraham uses because they're all equal to the receiving mode. Love, joy, appreciation, passion. Those are all, when you are feeling any of those emotions, especially if you feel them intensely, you are wide open to receive the things that you have been in desire of.
And
another one I add to that is like today, I am right now, I'm in a sense of well-being. I just feel like all is well in my world. I feel like everything's positioned. It feels good. That to me is a receiving mode. I know I'm in a receiving mode right now as we're speaking.
And speaking of which, if you're listening to the show and you're feeling good about what you're hearing right now and you're in that good receiving mode, this is a good time also to put a little message out to people you know who are into the law of attraction. Say, check out this show. Tell them that you're enjoying it, because we want to keep spreading the word about the show and get more and more people listening to it. Once people start listening, they listen and listen and listen. Our numbers are showing that very clearly. People listen to every episode. So, do your friends a favor. Tell them that this thing is going on and tell them why you're liking it so much. And we would appreciate it, too, because that just means more and more people are hearing about the show. So just had to slip that in there, Wendy.
Well, and, on that topic, some people I know feel as though their friends are not in a supportive place where they do kind of drag them down because some of their friends are on a more negative jag where they want to feel uplifted, but they don't want to lose their friends. So here's a great opportunity. If you're really wanting to live a positive, happy life, and you recognize that your friends are not kind of on the same wavelength as you, maybe suggest they might want to listen to the show, LOA Today. And, we're always talking about things that can help bring more happiness and joy into your life. And so if your friends start listening and feeling like they're gaining some understanding of how they can do that for themselves, just think how you will have influenced your own environment, and you and all your friends could be happy together. Yay.
That's a good thing. Yeah, that's a win-win-win all the way around.
It is. And if they don't choose to do it, you know what? Maybe that's the universe's way of saying you're not really a match. So don't try to force or push that friendship any further. Let it come to its own natural either separation or give those people the freedom that aren't on your same wavelength to find their own course, and maybe in time they'll come back and they'll be on the same wavelength.
There's also a cool benefit to being in that receiving mode where you're feeling good and you're feeling like everything is just right with life and so forth, because if the friends that you currently have aren't quite up to snuff and they don't seem to be looking like they want to go up to snuff when you're in the receiving mode, all of a sudden new friends show up.
That's true.
And they show up out of the blue sometimes.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes you get an impulse to, like you did, like you and Louise, you reached out online to purposely seek for some friends that were like-minded, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah. That was the first I'd ever tried to do that, as just reaching out for friends. But so it was kind of a new thing to do. But it was really nice to get the responses that I got. I got really great responses. And we're talking like, I reach out to 8 people and 4 of them would give me a good response. When do you get that in any social circumstance? I can't remember the last time you get that.
That's pretty amazing.
That's fantastic.
And it doesn't surprise me in that you got a feeling, you got an impulse, you got a hunch, you got what I call an intuitive hit, and you followed it. And to me, if you get guidance like that, I would expect you to get a positive result, because I don't believe we're ever guided purposefully to something that gives us a result that isn't pleasant.
Well, it certainly makes sense when you look at what Abraham teaches about the nature of what they call you and you, meaning you, the physical being, and you, the non-physical being. They make it a very big point, and have pretty much since the beginning, to make it a point that contrary to what humans have thought for the longest time, where we start as non-physical, we came into the world as physical, and then we leave the world and return to non-physical. What actually happens is we come from non-physical, we remain non-physical, but we also extend into the physical world. So we're in both places at the same time when we're here, spirits having a physical experience. And then after the physical experience is gone, then we're 100% back in the non-physical. Part of the reason for bringing up that point is they want us to understand that when the non-physical side of us is out of alignment with the physical side of us, that's when we feel negative emotion. When our non-physical side is in alignment with our physical side, when we're in agreement, so to speak, when the non-physical and the physical me are saying, yes, I like the same thing, then we feel good about it. And that to me is, there's a great gift in that. The great gift is now we have a way to get to that place of acceptance. And more importantly, we know that the guidance that you're talking about is coming from us, is coming from our non-physical side. So we can actually trust it.
And so another component exactly with what you're talking about is that how you feel in physical form about a specific subject and how your higher being feels about that subject, there's like a gap between the two of them.
Mm-hmm.
And your emotion will always be the indicator of what that gap is.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Like your higher self, or some call inner being or source energy, will always be in a positive state. That is just the nature of non-physical.
Yeah, key
always
point.
In a positive state, seeing the best side or viewpoint of something.
Which is also not what we've been taught. I want to emphasize that, because Louise and I were talking about that yesterday. We were reading from the Vortex, and that point came up. Did you ever notice that the religions of the world, and I mean all of them without an exception, they all treat us on the other side as if we're going through hell in some way? There's none of them that say, hey, you are this wonderful, optimistic, positive being on the other side. None of them say that.
Okay. I don't know that I've really focused in that, so I take your word for it.
I think it's significant. I mean, we're actually told that our inner beings are happy. That's a great message.
That is a very positive message.
Yeah.
And so if we're focusing on something where, let's say, we've just had an argument with our spouse, and we're just thinking, he's such a jerk. I can't believe he does this to me all the time. And I feel really about him. Well, the reason I'm feeling that is because my viewpoint in that moment about this situation is not in agreement with how my inner being thinks about it. Because my inner being thinks the man in my life is fabulous and doesn't see the viewpoint that I'm seeing. And so the gap between how my inner being views this man in my life and how I'm viewing this man in my life is equal to the emotion I'm feeling about him.
Okay.
And so if I want to change, or if I want to feel good again, if I want to get back into agreement or alignment with how my higher self is feeling and thinking about this man in my world, then I need to find a different way to view him and focus on that.
Ah, yes.
And so one of the questions I am very known to ask in such a situation is, hello, inner being, you obviously feel about him differently than I do. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel this crappy. So what is it you know about him, or how are you viewing him, that when I view him in that same way, it'll make me feel good? And if I'm in a really bad space, I'm not going to get the answer right away because I'm not in the ready-to-receive mode.
Yeah.
And so sometimes I just throw the question out there, walk away from the situation, distract, and then with an expectation that the answer will flow to me when I'm in a better place and I'm not so focused on, oh, my God, my husband's a jerk.
Yeah.
But if I stay in my husband's a jerk, and then I call my friends and say, you are not going to believe what a jerk my husband is, and he did this thing. Can you believe that? Do your husbands do that? And then you start, like, spinning this thing of how horrible men are. That creates a momentum of its own. And believe it or not, law of attraction is actually going to help give you more thoughts and more evidence of why he's a jerk.
He's probably going to bring more jerks into your life.
And all of a sudden your boss will be a jerk.
Yep.
And your girlfriend will be a jerk.
Yep.
And the bus driver will be a jerk.
Yep.
And the cashier will be a jerk. And so, you know, in the world of being deliberate about wanting to live a happy life where we thrive, if we can jump off the train track of going down the road of gossiping about how bad something is, we do ourselves such a positive service by trying to disembark from that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, sticking on that kind of path is just, people don't realize how self-destructive that is. They think that they're venting. They think that they're, you know, taking out, what the other person's doing to them, but they're just doing it to themselves in a big, big way.
And what they, I think, oftentimes really don't recognize is how law of attraction will support their negativity.
Yeah.
Remember what I said, law of attraction is not moral. It doesn't look at right, wrong, good, or bad. Are you a nice person? Are you not a nice person? Did he do you wrong? Did he not do you wrong? It's whatever you're broadcasting. Law of attraction goes, okay, we'll give that person more of that.
Which is why... Which is why if you're in the space of the kind of person we were talking about this morning, that Cindy and I were talking about, where we were talking about somebody whose heart's been broken and and they're trying to get their ex back, and they're dealing with boundary issues and all the other stuff we were talking about, you're not going to be in a good space to try to receive good stuff at that point in time. So, like you talked about, answers aren't going to come right away from the inner being. And if they do come, you probably won't even recognize them at first.
Well, and I think the answers are always flowing, but we're not in a space of being ready to receive.
Better way of saying it. Yes, much better way of saying it. You're right.
Yeah. I mean, being ready to receive is a very different vibrational broadcast than being angry and not ready to receive the positive things.
Yeah. Yeah, they aren't even on the same planet, hardly.
And when I'm saying, are you ready to receive, I'll clarify. We're always receiving something. But when I'm talking about, are you ready to receive, I specifically am saying, are you ready to receive all the positive manifestations of the creations that you have been so desiring to have flow into your experience? Because back in my little scenario where, let's say, I'm really ragging on a husband and just saying he's like the devil incarnate and he's just so horrible and he's mean, blah, 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 I am open to receive more thoughts on that same wavelength.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually opening myself to receive a really disgruntled, cashier and somebody who really doesn't want to serve my best interest.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm ready to receive.
So let's tie in what Cindy and I talked about this morning, and specifically, let's go to the person who their heart's been broken. They're forlornly trying to get their ex back. It's not working for the reasons we talked about. They're in a bad place. They aren't really receiving what's coming to them. They're getting guidance, but it's not getting through. What can they do? How can they shift that? What's the best strategy do you think they can take in order to get out of that funk?
First thing is to stop focusing on the ex. Stop focusing on, I got to get him back. And if you want to shift the focus, either just completely distract and do something else. But I will tell you, oftentimes when somebody's been really desperate to get back an ex, they have such incredible momentum because they've been focusing on it, obsessing on it, almost addictedly obsessing on it.
Mm-hmm.
They can't just all of a sudden go, okay, I'm not going to think about it anymore. Why? Because law of attraction has been bringing them more and more thoughts. And the longer they've been doing it, the more thoughts law of attraction brings. Stay stuck, if you will, on that obsessive focus.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, I think one of the best things is to ask, what specifically am I really wanting him back for? What is it I'm really looking for in this relationship? And if you can get yourself shifted from, I want him, let's call him Joe Smith, I want Joe Smith back in my life, to what I'm really desiring is a man who loves me, a man who wants to spend time with me, a man who, when I'm with him, I feel like I'm my best self. And when you begin to shift the thinking toward what's the essence of what I'm looking for in this relationship, it can sometimes help separate what you desire from the person. Because you may find Joe Smith really doesn't even have all those qualities. He's not even shown you, though, that he has the qualities of what you really desire in a relationship.
Which can be eye-opening.
Very eye-opening. But to me, that's, if you can't just distract, the spot just came to me. So let's say you distract by going, I think I'm going to go to a movie, and you go to some movie that literally mirrors the same relationship you just had. So that won't work.
That's where it feels like the universe is playing a really dirty trick on you. When in fact,
it's the law of attraction doing what the law of attraction does.
That's right.
Just bringing more of that energy. But I think if you can get yourself to the place where you can start asking some really profound questions about what is it that I want in a relationship? What do I really desire? And not think about, well, is he a match to those? Just focus on you and what you desire. Because if you can get into a positive space about what's important to you, eventually the momentum on the obsession will end. And I mean eventually, because it doesn't happen overnight. But if you start to place your focused attention more on what's really important to you in a relationship, you start to shift the energy toward that instead of toward him.
And I like the fact that you mentioned don't compare the list to him. Make the list what it is. You know, it's a hypothetical mate that you haven't met yet, and this is an ideal mate. And it's if one man could have all of the characteristics, or all woman, if you know, depending on what kind of partner you're trying to attract, of course, you know, if your partner could have all of the best possible characteristics that you wish that partner could have, what would that list of characteristics be? Getting into that mind frame, that alone, just doing that exercise, even writing it down, making a list. That's what my wife did, actually. That's one of the things she did to find me, believe it or not. She made a list. And
I have a list. I have a list, and mine is called my man plan.
Oh, okay.
And it's on my computer, and it has pretty much remained the same. Every now I look at it again. It's how I brought in my first husband. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you, there were things on my man plan that he didn't exactly fit, but he fit a lot of it. And now as I look toward, and I'm open to a new relationship, some of the things that my first husband didn't quite fit, I'm realizing, oh, those are things that are really, really important to me. Mm. And I didn't recognize how important they were until I didn't get them.
And I have to say, it's a little spooky from the other side, because my wife actually pulled out the paper. She found it shortly after we met that she had made many years ago. It was back when she was in graduate school toward becoming a psychotherapist. And she still had the paper. She brought it out and showed it to me. And I looked at it, and we went over it together. And I don't remember exactly how many items were on it. Let's say there were 10 items on it. I matched 9 of them. I mean, I matched almost everything on there, and it was really spooky.
That's pretty cool.
That was really, really spooky. When I saw that, I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to think. I was just blown away that I matched so much of what was on that list.
So I have a silly story to tell you.
Okay.
When I was going through the process of divorce, I was doing a do-it-yourself kind of divorce. So I was online and I was researching, you know, how do you do this? And I found this divorce attorney's website. And on his About Me page, you know, I was he had it like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Instead of it all in paragraphs, he just had different bulleted points about him. You know, who is he? And I'd never seen an About Me page written this way. And I remember one of the things he put on there, I think it was like bullet point number 10, he talked about his relationship to his wife. And he said, I worship the ground she walks on.
Ooh.
I don't think she knows it, but I do.
Wow.
I got to tell you, everything in me got so excited. I so resonated with that, and I went, that's what I'm looking for. And I wrote it down on a little sticky, and I wrote, I worship the ground my wife walks on. I added that to my man plan. And the gal I spoke to today, we were talking about relationships, and I said, what I'm looking for, this is now biggest number 1 priority. I'm looking for a man who worships the ground I walk on.
Okay.
And for a long time, that felt really weird to acknowledge and say out loud. People are going to think I'm crazy. But you know what? There is an energy behind those words for me, that when I'm with somebody and I know they are really loving and adoring me and worshiping the ground I walk on, it is so satisfying. And of course, I am absolutely wanting to give that back. It's not a one-sided thing. You know, to me, I'm all about a beautiful blend of exchange. I want to worship the ground he walks on, too.
I just have this very wild image of me walking around behind Louise every 3 feet, getting down on my knees and genuflecting.
Well, to me, that's not quite part of it. It was more of an energy. You know, like I said, I used to think that people would think I'm nuts. But you know what? That is really what I desire. That is absolutely what I desire. And the thing I love knowing about being a deliberate creator is if we have the wherewithal, this is a direct quote from Abraham, to desire something, then the law of attraction has the wherewithal to deliver it.
This is true.
So I don't need 100 different guys going, well, I really care about you, but I can't say I want to worship the ground you walk on. Well, and I don't mean this in an ugly way. Next. Because I want the one who wants to be with me with such devotion, that might be a weird word, but to such an extent that they would say that they love me that much. And I want to love him that much. So.
Okay.
There you go.
Hey,
so
if it works,
listening.
If it works for you, okay, fine. I mean, to me, that I just see as genuflecting and kind of tripping over each other's shadows. But whatever, if it works for you, that's great.
Yeah, that's what works for me, and that's what makes us all unique and different people having this life experience on planet Earth.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, that's the really important point. It doesn't really matter whether or not what you put out there matches what somebody else would put out there. I mean, clearly what you're putting out there is metaphorical anyway. And, if the way that you think about it works for you, then it works for you. I mean, as long as you're not doing it in a way that's unhealthy, as long as you're not destroying barriers or boundaries that should be in place and things like that, then, hey, what's wrong with it? There's nothing wrong with it.
And I know that it's possible for a man to feel that way because this man expressed himself on his website about his life.
Apparently, yeah.
So I know it exists because this man showed me that this exists. And that to me was the beauty of it, because through the words on his website, he showed me an energy that I had really desired in my relationship where that piece wasn't really there, and it put it into words. And those words may sound really funky to someone else, but those words conveyed an energy to me that I know what that feels like. I know what that indicates.
And it's the energy that matters anyway, because what we're really trying to do is put up the like vibrational energy to attract the same vibrational energy. So, yeah, that's really all that matters.
So,
but I'll never think of you. I'll never think of you the same way again after that. You realize that.
Just want to throw that thought out into the universe. I think more people should have such adoration for somebody that they're in relationship with that maybe that phrase comes up. Maybe it doesn't, but that's okay.
We've got about 2 minutes left. I just wanted to take a moment to remind people that if you have not yet subscribed to the podcast, please take the time to do so. People are doing that, and when they do it, they are loving it. All of our analytics tell us that they are playing virtually all of the episodes that they're able to get their hands on. The number of episodes they're playing is increasing every month. I mean, it's literally 5 times what it was six months ago in terms of the number of episodes people are listening to in a month. So, that just goes to prove it really is worth it. People are enjoying it, and you will too. You don't want to miss any episodes. Do sign up. Just go to loatoday.net, click the subscribe button, or go to your iTunes store if you're on an iPhone and search on LOA Today, subscribe there, or on an Android phone, same thing, just go to Google Play and subscribe by searching on LOA Today. And Wendy, for somebody who's looking for a little personal assistance, how do they reach you?
They can find me through my website at wendydillard.com. And both my phone number and my email address are available. And so whichever your preference is to get in touch with me, reach out. I'm here.
I love the way you make it so simple. I mean, there are lots of people who have websites, particularly in coaching, and I've been getting to know a lot of them, and they just complicate things so much. You make it so simple. Really great. I love that.
Thank you.
So let's do this again tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it.
You got it.
All right. And we want to invite you back, too. By the way, don't forget to check us out mornings as well. We're doing this twice daily, Monday through Friday, and David Bartke and I do it on Sundays. But meanwhile, we will see you tomorrow here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye-bye now.